Tommy, hey, congratulations for your documentary. I Love You, You Hate Me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I do have to admire your background here. It's very fitting for the theme of this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, it's my basement. I
Oh,
used to
really?
I used to work in a video store, and like these white racks here, when the place went under, I was able to get them. So yeah, there's even more movies over here, and I have like subsections of movies. Like I have my H24 collection, my Kevin Smith collection. So it's like my basement's a video store from the '90s.
Wow, wow. Yeah, I was gonna say there's plenty of VHS tapes back. Never said. I don't even think I even own like even 10% remotely close of VHS tapes back there.
Yeah, I mean, there's VHS for sure. And then there's a couple DVDs, some Blu-rays. Try to change it up. There's some collector editions right up there. Here's the original Barney tapes right here.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see that. Wow, that's impressive. Well, let me start with this, with this question. Where the original idea came from? What sparked you to do, this Barney documentary?
Yeah, I mean, so I found this like old news broadcast from 1993, and it was a Barney-bashing event. It was these college kids from the University of Nebraska, and they were just beating up Barney for this college party, and they're like hitting him with a hammer, ripping him apart, throwing darts at him. And at the end, the newscaster said, "Well, that's the future of the country right there." And it's like, oh, well, what if we explored, because we're living in that future now, right? Like, why not we explore like love and hate, and why we love the things we love and why we hate the things we hate, and tell it through the eyes of Barney the Dinosaur. Love, hugs, and American rage. That was like our thought. Like we could Trojan horse this sort of story and just talk about how Barney kind of came to be by these two school teacher moms from Dallas, Texas, that just wanted something positive and educational for their kids to watch and like teach them about love. And it comes out in PBS in 1992, and then everyone all the adults had to make fun of it and beat it up and start the I Hate Barney Secret Society and the Jihad to destroy Barney. So
That is quite impressive. I'm actually more impressed the fact that you got a lot of subjects to be part of this
yeah.
documentary. Tell us how you track a lot of these people down.
I mean, like the history of Barney and some of the stories behind Barney aren't common knowledge. It's a lot of things that are just very difficult it's no one ever wrote a book, no one ever did an oral history of Barney. So it was very difficult to sort of get that story in the first place. So even before we started pitching this, we just did like a research mission, So I would reach out to like Bob West on Facebook, the voice of Barney, talk to David Joyner, the body of Barney. We would reach out to all these people and just ask them questions and start like compiling the story and trying to figure out what's there and break the structure and all that stuff. And then we pitched it. But it was all about just reaching out and asking questions. And, thankfully, a lot of the guys that were a part of Barney, they had already seen some of my older work. Like they liked the Bill Murray Stories, the movie I did. And they're like, oh, so they kind of like trusted me to tell the story.
I was gonna say if there was any difficulties, convincing some of these parts. We'll get to Cheryl in a moment, but
sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, like you're at the end of the day, you're a stranger asking someone to trust you. So there is sometimes that level because we're talking about like delicate things. And especially Barney coming up in the 90s, they went through a lot of like media backlash. I mean, Full House, Friends, Fresh Prince, these TV shows made fun of Barney. It was on Leno, it was on Letterman, it was on everything being made. Animaniacs made fun of Barney. So they're understandably a little guarded.
absolutely. And I've seen the documentary, but we want to hear it from you. Is what was the polarizing factor that you probably think that is about Barney, that people either love him or hate him in the
I
end?
mean, the thing is, it's not like it's just one thing. I think there's, Bob West, the voice of Barney, says it is like Barney in some ways is like a mirror. It reflects the thing you don't like about yourself. And I think we explored different reasons why people could hate Barney. and really what that sort of says about ourselves. And we talk about the guy who created the I Hate Barney secret society. Here's a guy that just wanted to come home from work and give his daughter a hug. But when he came home, she was watching Barney and had wanted nothing to do with him, you know? So it all starts there. It's jealousy, it's all this, it's that. And as we talk to all these other people, you can kind of see where some of their hate is coming from.
Did it, in in the process of your production, did you find out, or process of your research, did you get a sense that there are more people that love Barney or more people that hate Barney?
It's interesting, especially because the trailer came out like 2 weeks ago, and people's reactions, and like some people will go, yeah, why did we hate Barney? And some people were like, I never liked Barney. I was a Barney fan from the beginning. And some people would be like, that song, don't remind me of the song. I mean, that song's been used for torture, you know, so it's a legit thing. So it's I think back then, kids growing up, it was the first thing they learned to hate, the first thing they learned to denounce just to fit in, because Barney was so targeted towards little kids that you had to hate Barney to, I'm not a kid anymore, and I'm sure a lot of these sort of kids would still watch Barney but just never tell their friends.
It is kind of funny about the all this hate towards Barney. It's almost like it's a precursor towards the internet or towards Twitter and all this kind of stuff.
Well, that was the fascinating thing for us. It's like, oh wait, so these tapes of Barney came out in 1988, but it hit PBS in 92. This is very, very early internet. So like one of the first, there's not many websites in the beginning. So one of the first websites was the Jihad Destroyed Barney. They say the first time the word jihad was ever used online was the Jihad Destroyed Barney. So it's like very, very early internet where people are like connecting online to like find something that they hate,
Absolutely. Now, how did you get a lot of these footages of from the old shows and the permissions? I mean, this is some digging from
yeah,
yourself.
for sure. We were very lucky that some of the people that worked on Barney were just like tech nerds, so in 1992, whatever, they had their VHS camera and they're like filming stuff. So we got to see behind the scenes for the first time what it was like at Barney, so, Bob West gave us some footage. Some of the writers gave us footage. So it was a lot of like great sort of access that we know no one's ever been able to see before.
Was it a difficult process to clean it up for your documentary?
Not that I'm aware of. We had some fantastic editors that really knew what they were doing. So, and plus it works. As long as it wasn't terrible. To show that sort of graininess of a VHS is always fun. It throws you back. Especially when the dates up like on the bottom there. And a little bit of tracking up top. So.
Now let's talk about Cheryl, who basically founded Barney the Dinosaur. I guess you tried to reach out to her and she immediately downright rejected. I guess maybe it's...
No, not immediately. We had a really great conversation. I had reached out to her through email and she responded, and we were like pen pals for quite some time, just kind of going back and forth. She watched some of my other movies. She even gave me some notes on them, which is fantastic. And we met up. We had lunch for like 4 hours. A really great time, but at the end of the day, like Cheryl is a person that even during the time of Barney's like heyday, wasn't someone that really wanted to acknowledge some of the Barney hate. When maybe some of the crew members were like, we should talk about this, we should get ahead of it. It was something that she always constantly wanted to ignore. So if we ever did a documentary called I Love You, she would probably be in it. But once you bring in that You Hate Me, I think that was something that she never would want to do.
So was there any influence from her on this documentary?
I got to talk to her about her experience and all that sort of stuff, but all that stuff is like off the record, so it wasn't anything we were going to ever use. We're not going to be like, she's not going to give us a quote or any of that sort of thing, but she was very helpful in that she was just a nice person.
I was going to say, what was she like actually in person? And she's probably most definitely surprised, as indicated in the documentary, with the backlash.
Yeah, I mean, here, like I talk about the newscaster saying that's the future of the country, you know, but like there's a clip of her in the movie, it's an archival clip, where she said she created Barney to show what the world could be, you know, and she very much had this message that the world could be a lot better if we just are kind to each other. And it was something that, you know, our brains couldn't handle at the time. And and that's why you see some of the rage that kind of came to be. But, you know, I think she was like surprised by the reaction. But but remember too, it's like that is like the audience that it wasn't made for. The audience it was made for worked in an amazing way. Like they did so well. I mean, they were going to children's hospitals to help children. Some of these children never even spoke before, and they're speaking "I love you" to Barney for the first time. There's something amazingly magical about this thing that she created, and that sort of joy and delight is what some people resisted, and I think that's where some of the bashing comes from as well.
Since you did speak to her, and it's not included in the documentary, in the end, did you get a sense like she actually did good overall?
I think she did good, yeah, because like we talked to the Barney, some of the fans, and their lives are better because of it. I mean, I like to think that the generation that's now that grew up with Barney are kinder sort of people. You know, I think there is a very big movement towards, you know, exploring mental health and the idea of like just being nicer to each other. You know, obviously the loudest, most angriest voice usually wins. You know, but I think in some ways, I mean, look at that movie in 21 Jump Street. Remember that movie with Jonah Hill, and
Yeah.
like the one character that used to be a jerk and mean was no longer cool when he came back. I think there is that element of like, let's just be a little bit nice to each other. I mean, obviously, bullying and bashing still happen, but maybe just not as bad as it did back then.
That
Who
is,
Yeah.
now, for yourself, Tommy, what was your relationship to Barney the Dinosaur? I mean, I was in college during the 1990s, and I was kind of apathetic. I didn't really care either way.
Right, and that's fine. You know, I mean, like, you know, I was 10 years old when Barney came out, so I definitely didn't get it. You know, but I remember like even when I got a little bit older, and me and my friends had a video camera, and we would try to like make like comedy skits, like you know, Mad TV or something. My Aunt Ro, I asked her to make me a Barney costume so we could film Barney skits where like my friend Timmy dressed like Mr. Rogers and he beat me up as Barney. You know, so there was definitely that weird like element like where, you know, we made these skits, we thought we were funny, we weren't funny, and we kind of forgot about it. And like going back to this idea of Barney many years later in this docuseries, I was like, all right, why did I do that back then? You know, we snuck a couple clips of it and put it in the movie, just for my own, you know, enjoyment. But it's like interesting. Why would I have done that? It's like, oh, because everyone else was making fun of Barney, and you thought to be funny, you had to make fun of Barney, you know? So
It's almost like a sense of like peer pressure, right? Like if you want
yeah,
to
of
be cool.
course. You know, we in the doc we showed this like old study where they would show kids Barney, and at the end they're all loving and hugging and all that sort of stuff, and then they show them Power Ranger and they're all kicking each other. You know, it's like there is something about like a positive message that works for children.
Great. Now for Peacock, it's a two-part docu series, which basically means you did really extensive research. That I'm actually impressed that you got this amount of information for it. And but I also saw your filmography that you're also doing another Barney the Dinosaur miniseries. Is that correct, or is that something else?
It's just IMDb didn't put it on right. You know, like it's when the new if you go on like IMDb Pro, there's like 4 listings for Barney, and you know it was because we didn't announce the title at first. You know, this is so unimportant, but like they didn't announce the title at first, so they just called it Untitled Barney docuseries, and then eventually we did the title. And so instead of replacing it, somehow there's like 2 or 3 of them. So no, I'll tell you what my next movie is though.
Okay.
It's The House From. It's a documentary all about what it's like to live in a famous house from a movie and TV show. So we've been to the Full House, movie from House from Friday, Golden Girls, Home Alone. What's it like to live in these houses? And we actually have a Kickstarter for it right now. It's thehousefrom.com. where you can be a part of us. We're gonna release it ourselves. Like Barney is the big project. This is like smaller project where it's just like this fun look in this weird world of just living in this like iconic homes.
Yeah, I saw a lot of in your filmography, there's a lot of nostalgic type of
Sure.
projects. What you love this nostalgia things from
To me, it's one of those, like, it's like I like taking things that are around us all the time and looking at it in a completely different way. Like I did a documentary called I Am Santa Claus. Like every year we sit down on this man's lap and we don't think about what family he goes home to. That's our documentary about I Am Santa Claus. Like what life will you live when you look like Santa all year round? There's a guy who legally changed his name to Santa Claus. There was a drunk Santa. There was a gay Santa. There was a swinger Santa. There's all these like sort of weird stuff we found. Bill Murray stories. It's like, oh yeah, Bill Murray. He goes and crashes your party and does the dishes. Well, why? And then we start talking about community. I'm sorry. We start talking about living in the moment, being present. And Barney's quite similar, where it's like, here's this thing that you kind of remember back in the day, but like, it's interesting to kind of look at it with this lens and be like, well, why do we treat this thing the way we did? So it's not necessarily nostalgia to me. It's like looking at something that's always been around, but in a different way to understand something else about ourselves.
Awesome. Well, one more thing before I let you go, Tommy, is I keep on staring. Is that Bill Murray's head there?
Thank you. Yes, it's a fun little Easter egg for everyone. It's Bill Murray's head right up there. So in our documentary, the Bill Murray stories, we did these reenactments of Bill, and it's this really weird mask that we built. Dave Deneen made it from us. He actually did Buddy Christ for Dogma. But and whenever I do Zoom meetings, I always put the Bill Murray head somewhere in the background. And it's my basement, so I wanted to throw Bill Murray somewhere, and I thought that was funny.
That is terrific. That likeness is spectacular. But I'm just curious, just about your Bill Murray documentary. Did you have a chance to even talk to Bill Murray? Because I've seen several Bill Murray documentaries, and he's very elusive.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want the movie to feel like it was a chase for Bill. Like it wasn't something that I needed him to tell. It was a story about like, why does he do these things, living in the moment and being present. And, there's like a quick sort of interaction between me and Bill. But yeah, we talked to Joel Murray, his brother, and I like to think that our film stands out in that it's really about this weird thing he does and finding a meaning in it. The full title is The Bill Murray Stories, Life Lessons Learned from a Mythical Man. And that's really what it is. It's these sort of life lessons we can all learn.
Well, Tommy, this is a great conversation. I thank you very much for speaking to us about Barney and everything else. And you are certainly a documentarian that picks the right projects and right subjects to do.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's great talking to you, man.
Hey, it's terrific. Hopefully we get to do this again. Thank you very much.
See ya.